What's up, everybody? My name is Ronnie DiMaggio. I'm a product specialist here at BMW Morristown. That's Austin behind the camera. And today we're going to be doing a walk around and overview of this 2022 BMW X5M. So the X5M is the absolute top dog in the X5 lineup. This car comes with a lot of additional performance features over the traditional or the entry-level model X5. We're going to talk about all that stuff and more, go over the spec on this particular X5M, talk about all those performance benefits, and just get you guys familiar with everything that the X5M has to offer. First things first with an M car is, of course, the heart of the car. That would be the engine. So let's pop the hood and talk about the drivetrain in the X5M. Alright, so here we are under the hood of this 2022 X5M. This particular X5M is equipped with the competition package that gives you an additional 17 horsepower over the regular X5M. Both the competition package car and the normal X5M do use the same engine, so it's a 4.4 liter twin turbo V8. This is called the S63. It is an S engine. All those BMW engines that have the S letter prefixing the number are bespoke M engines. You're only going to find this engine in M cars, the M5, the M8, the X5M, X6M, that kind of stuff. So if you want to come in close a little bit here, we'll talk about some of the specific features to this twin turbo V8. First thing you'll notice looking at the engine is, of course, that beautiful carbon fiber engine cover. You have a nice BMW M logo and some nice carbon fiber to trim the engine bay. You'll also see a black strut tower brace going from one strut tower to the other. That is designed to increase chassis rigidity, just helps contribute to the X5M's really athletic feeling on the road, helps the car stay more rigid and planted through corners. Another unique feature of this specific twin turbo V8 is that it uses a hot V layout. So in a traditional twin turbo V8, the exhaust manifold will be on the outboard side of the engine. In BMW twin turbo V8s, they actually put the turbochargers inside the V of the engine. So they call it a hot V, and what that means is that the turbochargers spool up much quicker. There's much better response when you have that hot V layout. All of that comes together to generate 617 horsepower, which is roughly enough power to reverse the rotation of the Earth. So you'll never be wanting for power in the X5M. It's an extremely potent engine and an extremely potent performance car. So that's the heart of the X5M. Let's keep going around the exterior of the car. We'll talk about some design features and get you guys familiar more with the X5M. Alright, so looking at the exterior of the X5M Competition, you of course have a couple of design elements that are bespoke to the M model that you're not going to find on any of the entry-level X5s or even the M50. Starting off in the front, one of the biggest ones is of course the bumper. You have a specific M bumper. It is trimmed in a couple of different air vents that are absolutely huge. This 4.4 liter V8 uses up a lot of air, so you have air intake just about everywhere. You have those two honeycombs on the side as well as the bottom center. And if you look at the main grille, it is, of course, using those traditional M dual slats. You have a black X5M badge as well. That's part of the competition package. On a non-compact car, that's going to be a chrome badge. And speaking of badges, you do have the BMW 50th anniversary badge as well. That is a badge that BMW used back in the 70s when they were racing, back in their motorsport heritage days. So BMW is bringing that back for the 50th anniversary of the M brand. So it's cool to see that. That is an option. You can opt for a standard badge if you prefer, but we think that the M heritage badge looks great, especially on Donington Grey here. Speaking about the headlights, so you have BMW laser lights on the X5M here. You can always identify a laser light because they have these little blue accents in there. The laser lights obviously look really good, but they also perform extremely well at nighttime. The visibility is fantastic. You'll also notice that the housings on these headlights are black, so that's part of the shadow line package. You get those blacked out headlights, which of course looks really cool. Adds to the kind of sinister look the X5M has going on. If you take a look at the wheels, these are a staggered wheel setup. So you have 21s in the front, 22s out back. The front tires are 295 wide, rears are 315s. If you get down and look at those brakes, you have 15.6-inch brake rotors, which are absolutely ginormous. You have a 6-piston front caliper, so stopping power is not hard to come by in the X5M. It's an extremely fast car, so you need brakes to haul you down, and the X5M definitely has the stopping power that it needs, especially with these Pilot Sport 4S tires. At all four corners, they're extremely grippy, so stopping power is more than adequate in the X5M. Down in this area, you'll also see a gloss black fender vent as well with an X5M badge. Then if we want to move up a little bit higher, you'll see the M wing mirror. The M wing mirror is starting to become a bit of a tradition on M cars. That became popular with the E90 generation M3. You saw it on the F80, you see it on the G80, now you're seeing it on pretty much all the M cars. So really good to see the M wing mirrors coming back to the X5M as well. And as I was mentioning before, a lot of the body panels are specific to the X5M. That continues on the side here. We have side skirts that are specific to the X5M. They have a nice little contour to them. They look a little sharper. All of that is coming together to add to the aggressive design of the X5M. You'll also notice that the fenders are a little bit wider. Part of that is for aesthetics. Obviously, you want to have a wider fender, just adds to that kind of aggressive look of the car. But these tires are positively gigantic back here, so you need a bigger fender to cover all of that tire. You can't have any tires sticking out. That's part of regulation in the United States. You can't have anything sticking out beyond the fender. So you have those nice wide fenders to accommodate a really wide, meaty tire out back here. If you want to take a look at the back of the X5M, you'll notice that again, we're looking at a lot of specific design elements that are specific to only the X5M. One of those is, of course, the X5M badge with the competition underline as well. That black badge is, again, specific to the competition package. You'll also notice that the rear bumper is bespoke for the X5M, as well as that gloss black diffuser. And, of course, on an M car, you have quad exhaust tips. That's a thing that BMW has been doing on M cars since probably before I was born, so we love to see them continuing those M traditions in a lot of different ways, but the quad exhaust is a signature, and we're of course glad to see that back on the X5M. You also have a nice spoiler out here on the roof of the X5M. Again, just another design element that's going to add to the aggression of the X5M. This is an M car, so BMW designs it with aggression with style in mind. So it's not outlandish or some crazy styling. It's all just very aggressive. It comes together to make an athletic looking car. The car looks as aggressive and as good as it performs. So all of those, the roof spoiler, the bumper, the quad tips, the side skirts, fender flares, all that stuff comes together to create a really nice and athletic looking vehicle. The X5M is certainly that. So that's going to do for the outside of the X5M. Let's hop into the interior. There are, of course, a lot of things specific to the M model on the interior as well. So let's go ahead and take a look at those. All right, so before we get into the X5M, I just want to point one thing out. Again, a specific thing to the M model. If you take a look at these seats, they are more heavily bolstered than the standard seats in the X5. Even the X5 M50 doesn't get seats this heavily bolstered. The side bolsters are, of course, adjustable, so they are suitable to all body types. You also have an extendable thigh support and a little bit taller thigh bolsters as well, so these seats do help to hug you in place when you're going a little bit quicker, driving a little bit more dynamically in your X5M, because that's what the car is built for. The seats are there to match. So that's the seats. Why don't we hop in, talk a little bit more about the interior. All right, so here we are in the interior of the X5M. So you'll notice a couple of things that are specific to the X5M you're not going to see on any other X5 models. The trend continues from the exterior to the interior. First things first, you have this M-specific steering wheel. It is very similar to the steering wheel that you see in M Sport package cars. However, it is specific to M cars because this bottom third spoke here is hollow in the center. That is an M specific thing. You'll also notice that the inner part of the rim is trimmed in the M tricolor. Helps to tie in those tricolor accents. We see those on the steering wheel, on the M badge here. You'll also see those tricolor accents on the seatbelt as well. That's part of the comp package. You'll also have tricolor accents down on the floor mats. So they are everywhere. They tie in nicely with the steering wheel as well. Talking about the steering wheel, you have two buttons up here. These are your M1 and M2 buttons. These are programmable drive mode buttons. So in a normal series BMW, you have Sport, Comfort, and Eco Pro, or drive mode similar to that. In M cars, you have M1 and M2. So these are programmable, like I said. You can program these to whatever you want. You can press the setup button down here in the center console, and it brings up this screen on your iDrive. You can have M1, for example, be all of your comfort and efficient settings, and then if you click over to M2, you can jump into all your sportiest settings. So you can program these to whatever you want. I love the M1 and M2 buttons just because they look cool on the steering wheel, of course, but also it helps to speak to the duality of M cars. M cars made their name in the car industry by being fantastic and potent performance cars while also being genuinely good luxury daily drivers. That duality in the M1 and M2 buttons really speaks to that M ethos, which I think is really cool. Speaking about this being a luxury car also, you'll notice that the dashboard, the seats, the lower part of the dashboard, these inner trim parts here, everything is trimmed in this really nice supple merino leather. This particular color is called Adelaide Grey. So this is very much a luxury car. You have massaging seats, heated and ventilated seats. You even have heated and cooled cup holders as well. So that is all part of the luxury element of the X5M. This is an incredible daily driver as well as an extremely potent performance SUV. Talking about some other M-specific stuff, if we jump down here to the center console area, you'll notice that the shifter is a little bit different than what you'd get in a normal X5M, or a normal X5, sorry. So the X5M uses an M-specific 8-speed torque converter automatic. It's no longer a dual clutch, but the torque converter auto is a little bit more robust. It shifts just as quick as the dual clutch. At least if there is a difference, it's imperceptible. And the torque converter is a little bit smoother around town, not quite as jerky as the dual clutch was. So the transmission is controlled in a slightly different way than a normal transmission in an X5. So instead of going up and down to shift from reverse to drive or something like that, you actually push over for drive, to the left for neutral, and then just like a traditional 6-speed manual BMW, you come in and up for reverse, and then you can pop it back down and put it into park for park, just like a normal transmission stock in or transmission lever in a BMW. You have that park button on the front there. You'll also notice this button. This is your drive logic selector. That adjusts the aggressiveness and the speed of the shifts. You can toggle this all the way up if you want a really quick, really snappy shift to emulate that dual clutch feeling, or you can dial it down to get a smoother, more relaxed shift for your comfort drives, stuff like that. Also down here in the center console, you'll notice these 3 specific buttons look a little bit different than they would in a normal X5. So instead of Sport, Comfort, and Eco, you have a couple of different M-specific buttons. This top one here is your M mode. So the M mode will control the look of your gauge cluster. If you want to take a look up in the gauge cluster, you'll notice that this is your road mode. This is your standard gauge cluster screen. If I press that M mode button, it jumps over to a more aggressive looking sport gauge cluster screen. When I press M mode, it also changes the look of the heads up display. So I get RPMs showing in my heads up display when you're in sport mode as well. Also down here, you'll notice the setup button. We can press that. That's how we are configuring our M1 and M2 buttons. Pulls up this screen to configure your different drivetrain options, as well as the chassis, steering, brake, stuff like that. Finally, you do have an exhaust button, so the exhaust volume is configurable independent of your M1 and M2 buttons, so you can press this to adjust the volume of the exhaust, whether you want those valves open or closed. But that's going to just about do it for the M-specific stuff, with the exception of the start-stop button. So that is everybody's favorite button in the X5M, and for good reason. This button is, of course, red. That is specific to the X5M. That is, of course, the button that you use to start and stop the engine. So with that said, why don't we hop outside, we'll get a quick startup clip and some exhaust revs, and then we'll head out and wrap everything up. Alright, so that's going to about do it for this walk around and overview of this 2022 X5M with the competition package. Thank you guys for tuning in, sticking with us for this video. We just released a couple of other videos on the i4, M50, as well as the 840 LCI, so please browse the channel and check those out. If there's anything that you want to see in the future, drop a comment down below, DM us on Instagram or something like that. Or if you want to get in touch with us about ordering a BMW for yourself, whether it's an X5M or anything else, we can hook you up with one of our client advisors. You can spec out the BMW that you want. You can also give us a call at 973-455-0700 or give us a visit at 111 Ridgedale Ave. We'll set you up with a client advisor, we'll get you on the road, and we'll have you enjoying a new BMW. Maybe this X5M, it is for sale, so give us a call if you're interested in this car or any others. But for now, thank you guys for watching. Stay tuned for future uploads, and we'll see you later.